Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to preview the Jake Wyllie versus Youssef Dib card that's taking place at the Fortitude Music Hall in Brisbane on the 23rd of August. Jake Wyllie versus Youssef Dib will be for the IBF Australasian lightweight belt. A 10-round contest. Let's start with Jake Wyllie. Jake Wyllie, someone that's sort of come onto a lot of people's radar following his performance against George Kambosos. So he didn't get the result, but there was definitely a performance there, and he caught a lot of people's eyes. If you're not aware, Jake Wyllie, 25 years of age, currently 17 wins, 16 knockouts, 2 losses, one of which coming by way of knockout, and 0 draws. He came up against George Kambosos in March of this year on short notice. George Kambosos' opponent pulls out. Jake Wyllie steps in. I do believe he was preparing for another fight, but nonetheless, he's stepping in there on short notice against a former world champion in George Kambosos Jr. That fight taking place in Sydney. Jake Wyllie, a native Queenslander. He went 12 rounds with George Kambosos. George Kambosos got a very wide unanimous decision, which I thought was correct. Some people thought it was much closer than that. I don't think there was many wrong answers because I think Jake Wyllie fought very competitively, especially from probably round 3 on. George Kambosos had a lot of good work in the first 2 rounds, and then sort of probably got comfortable and a bit complacent. And Jake Wyllie was able to really make it a bit of a dogfight and get in there and push George Kambosos till the final bell. Which is big for someone that had very little experience at that level coming into that George Kambosos fight, and still so young, not a big name yet, but he certainly turned that around, and I believe he got a matchroom contract following that fight, so it was a great night for Jake Wyllie. I know the result didn't go his way, but there's no shame at all in losing a unanimous decision to George Kambosos when it's your first real step up and he's a former world champion. Following that fight, Jake Wyllie has had another fight. He fought at this Fortitude Music Hall in April. It was about a month after that Kambosos fight, and he won, beating 19-year-old Saharat Turian, beat him by round 1 KO. And that brings us to now. He is going to be facing Youssef Dib for an IBF Australasian lightweight belt. So, big year so far for Jake Wyllie, and you love to see it because he is a good kid and a good fighter. Youssef Dib, good fighter. He's currently 32 years of age, 21 wins, 11 knockouts, 3 losses, 1 coming by way of knockout, and 0 draws. He's actually a former holder of this IBF Australasian lightweight belt. Now, Youssef Dib, he's coming into this fight off the back of 2 losses to former world title challenger Liam Wilson. The first fight being in July of last year, Dib losing that by round 8 KO, and the second one taking place March of this year, Youssef Dib losing that one, as I said, by unanimous decision. Now, Youssef Dib's coming into this fight off the back of 2 losses. Jake Wyllie's coming off a good performance against George Kambosos and a knockout. And I looked at the odds yesterday, and although you would expect Jake Wyllie to be favourite, I can't believe how much of an outsider Youssef Dib is. I mean, I think it was like 4-1. I don't see where that comes in. He had 2 fights against Liam Wilson, someone in which Liam Wilson has fought, I think, twice for a world championship. His next fight is for a world title eliminator, so a high-level opponent. The first fight, when he gets knocked out at round 8, I believe 2 of the judges had it when at round 8, Liam Wilson up by 1 round. And the second fight went to a very close unanimous decision. Although I do believe Liam Wilson won it, Youssef Dib still fought very well over the rounds and snatched quite a few. It ended up being a close unanimous decision victory for Liam Wilson. So I'm not quite sure how Jake Wyllie is such a heavy favourite. When I first saw this contest, I immediately thought Youssef Dib should win this. And I still believe Youssef Dib will win this fight. I think it'll be a close fight. I think Jake Wyllie showed a lot of himself, but I think Youssef Dib has a lot more to give than what he's been credited for. Um, and for those reasons, I think Youssef Dib is going to throw an upset, which is crazy to say because for me, looking at it, Youssef Dib I would have thought would be the favourite, if not even. Um, Maybe it's just the bookies looking at the past two fights and seeing the two losses. But saying that Jake Wyllie, I don't know, guys. I think it's stiff on Youssef Dib how much he's been given an outsider in this fight. Look, I could be proven completely wrong. And Youssef Dib could have just been a difficult opponent for Liam Wilson, and Jake Wyllie can figure him out. Jake Wyllie, the younger guy, really starting to build up momentum. I think that George Kambosos experience will give him a lot, and he'll need to use all that experience in this fight against Youssef Dib. I think it'll be a close fight, but I still think I'm going towards Youssef Dib for a victory. Yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. Am I putting too much credit on Youssef Dib's name? Look, I'm crediting him for two losses, but at the same time, we are crediting Jake Wyllie for a loss over George Kambosos. So it's a bit of a, which stake holds more, I guess. I'd love to hear you guys in the comments. All right, let's go on to the co-main event of the evening. This will be a 10-round contest in the women's super bantamweight division. We have Skye Nicolson taking on Urvashi Singh for a vacant IBF Intercontinental Super Bantamweight belt. Let's talk about Skye Nicolson. One of my favourite fighters currently within Australia. I think she's exceptional. I was surprised earlier this year, not only that she lost to Tiara Brown, but then the move to go from the featherweight division down to super bantamweight. I really wanted to see her fight Tiara Brown in a rematch. I did see yesterday that Tiara Brown announced that she's fighting at OTX, and that'll be her first defense. I don't know what contractual, political things went on behind the scenes, but it is a bit of a shame for Skye Nicolson to not be able to have another shot at her belt, because I do believe it is her belt, that WBC featherweight belt. But she's now at super bantamweight. She's had one fight at this new weight. That was her last outing, a very successful fight that one was as well. She fought that in July in Manchester, beating Carla Camilla Campos Gonzalez, winning that by a dominant round to TKO. Very good performance, clinical. Skye Nicolson at her best. And she looked good at the new weight. I was surprised, like I said, when she went out there because for me, Skye Nicolson was always quite a tall fighter at featherweight, broad shoulders, and when she said that she was going down, I was like, all right, let's see how she goes with cutting the weight, but obviously no problem. She fought excellent on the night, and she seems to be comfortable with the weight cut. If you can fight lower, because her last opponent, and what I saw from the face-off of this opponent, she is big compared to her opponent. And with Skye Nicolson, I always thought that she was such a good fighter from the outside, using that range just to pick the opponents off and win without really taking any damage. I always thought her best skill was the fact that you can't hit her. We saw that when she fought Raven Chapman. She won that fight by a very clear unanimous decision in October of last year. Raven Chapman, who I would probably say was her hardest opponent to date, if not it was Tiara Brown, because it is the one that she lost to. But going into that fight, it was a difficult fight for Skye, and she picked her off, just used all the skills that she has to win that unanimously. Skills that I thought she would implement in Tiara Brown fight. Unfortunately, I think she just got drawn into a fight, a bit of a dogfight that really benefited Tiara Brown, where at points I thought, Skye, just try and stay on the outside and hit her from range. Don't let her in, because whenever they sort of got into the pocket, Tiara Brown looked so comfortable, and we knew that going into the fight that she really liked a bit of a brawl, a bit of a dogfight, get in close and really make it a tough clinch sort of fight. Look, that all comes with experience. One thing I will say about Skye Nicolson is she became a world champion very early into her professional career. I mean, she beat Sarah Mahfoud to become world champion, and at that point Skye she had 9 professional fights. I know they were all 9 wins, but 9 professional fights, gets into a world championship fight. I know at that point Skye was WBC silver featherweight champion, and what she did at the amateurs and the Olympics, I know she didn't get the success or the medals that she was hoping for in the Olympics, but still very good amateur pedigree that pushed her through the ranks professionally, gets to 9-0, becomes a champion quite early, defends it twice. Yeah, defends it twice, then loses it to Yara Brown, and now she's back at super bantamweight. And her opponent, Urvashi Singh, 30-year-old, 12 wins, 7 knockouts, 3 losses, former WBC International Super Bantamweight champion. Look, to be honest, I'm not too filled in with Singh or her style of boxing, nor her previous fights. I can basically only speak on which I think Skye Nicolson needs to do, and basically what I've seen from pictures and a few little clips. For me, I think it's pretty similar work that needs to be done that she did against Carla Camilla Campos Gonzalez earlier this year. I think for Skye Nicolson, I'm expecting to see a Skye Nicolson just dominance. I do believe that. I think Skye Nicolson is that good, and I would expect over the 10 rounds that Skye Nicolson stops Singh. I think it's very, very possible, more likely than it going to the decision, in my opinion. I think it'll be a good night for Skye Nicolson. I'm probably looking at round 5 or round 6 stoppage for Skye Nicolson. I think when I saw the face-off yesterday, and I was like, Skye Nicolson is so much taller than Singh. And that comes with a lot because Skye's always had that long reach, and she's great at picking off an opponent. I'm expecting Singh to have an awful night. No offense to her. I hope she brings her best self, really test Skye Nicolson, but even with her test, I think Skye Nicolson gets through this, and I want to see her pushing for those super bantamweight belts. And for me, there's one fight that I want to see Skye Nicolson in. How soon that comes, I'm not sure. Obviously, she's pushed the rankings, I think, already quite highly in the super bantamweight division. Another win here will only make that case stronger, but for me, there's one name, and that's Ellie Scottney. She recently beat, on that MVP card, Yamalith Mercado. That's the fight for me. Ellie Scottney versus Skye Nicolson, probably in England. I think that would be a tremendous, tremendous fight. And for me, I reckon you could do it as early as next fight. If Skye Nicolson gets through Singh quite comfortably, just throw her in there. Like, what would we be waiting for? Skye Nicolson is a tremendous, tremendous fighter, former champion. 2 wins at this new division, hopefully 2 quite comfortable wins. Throw her in there. Let's get this done. Alright guys, that is the preview for today. Make sure you tune in this weekend for this great Australian boxing card. The Australian boxing right now is it is unbelievable. Some of the fights that we are seeing, some of the fighters that we are seeing coming out of Australia and fighting within Australia. It is really, really good for all levels of Australian boxing. Because it just helps promote the sport domestically, and really helps pay the fighters. It is hard for some of these fighters within Australia to propel themselves to the world level. So get out there, support all the fighters. If you are in Brisbane and you're free this weekend, definitely get down there to the Fortitude Music Hall if there's tickets still available. If not, it's going to be on the Zone. Definitely give it a watch. Skye Nicolson, I'm expecting a big win, and in the main card, I do think Youssef Dib will beat Jake Wyllie in what would be claimed as an upset, but for me, I don't think it would be. I think Youssef Dib should be the favourite, but hey, get in the comments, leave all your thoughts, like, subscribe if you're new, and I'm out of here, guys. See ya!